Okay, I'm going to be making a vegetarian chicken pot pie, and I might be making 2 of them, so I'm going to make 2 pie crusts just in case. So I'm going to use this bag of corn meatless pieces, and it's meant to be kind of like chicken, so I'm going to use that as a substitute for chicken. And then I'm going to use 2 vegetable bouillon cubes as a substitute for chicken stock. If you want to make this a meat pot pie, just use chicken cubes or chicken meat and chicken stock. So other than that, I have 1 yellow onion and 2 sticks of celery diced. I have 2 carrots, 2 rutabagas, and 2 russet potatoes diced. I have 12 mushrooms diced and about a cup of peas. And then I have flour, salt, pepper, poultry seasoning, butter. I'm going to be using Crisco for the pie crust. The reason why I'm using Crisco instead of butter is because I only have 1 stick of butter left, and also I want to make a vegan shepherd's pie later on, and Crisco is vegan where butter is not. Also, I have about 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley here. So first I'm going to get started on sauteing the vegetables. So I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of butter to my saucepan. I hope this is going to be big enough for all the vegetables. Maybe. While that's melting, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my pie crust. So let's see if this has a pie crust recipe. Yep, pie crust recipe right on the back. So we're going to follow the recipe. How many does it make? Makes 2 pie crusts. Okay. Wait, we're going to want pie crust on top and bottom of the pot pie. So we need to double the recipe. Okay, so the recipe calls for 3/4 cup of Crisco. So that would be 1.5 cup of Crisco if you double it. Okay, I don't have a 1/2 cup. Oh, but look, this measures to a 1/2 cup here. So we will do that then. Okay, our pan is ready to add our celery and onions. Now the reason why you want to saute the celery and onions together is because it creates natural MSG, and MSG is something that creates a really pleasant flavor to food. So it makes it more yummy and gives it that buttery kind of taste if you saute your onions and celery together. Okay, that looks like about a 1/2 cup there. So we're going to add that to our bowl. Now if you want to make a whole wheat crust, I suggest using whole wheat pastry flour, and that would make it even more healthy. But since there's so much fiber in all the vegetables, you don't really have to do that unless you want even more fiber. Last time I was really fit and healthy, I always used whole wheat pastry crust instead of all-purpose flour. But I don't really worry too much about it now, just so long as I get some fiber in there. And sometimes I add whole wheat flour to the all-purpose flour. But I just try to make sure I get fiber with everything I eat. Now for a better pie crust, it's best to keep the Crisco in the fridge, and then it also prevents the Crisco from going rancid as quickly. I just realized I still need this to read the instructions. Ha, silly me. Okay, so we need 4 cups of flour. I think I might take one of these chicken pot pies in with me to work tomorrow. I'm sure somebody would like to eat it. I learned that most people don't like the out of the norm foods that I make and take into the work. They prefer like American food, the typical American food. I tried bringing in curries and Asian food. They didn't like it, but they like American food. And I've heard they like Mexican food, although they didn't eat the enchiladas when I brought them in that one time. So I think I'll just bring in mostly American food, or food that's considered normal to most Americans. I have diverse tastes in food. I always have. I remember the first time I tried African food when I was a little girl. That was so awesome. Like, my mind was blown. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it had eggs and chicken. It was like hard-boiled eggs and chicken. It's something my mom made out of a cookbook, and it was delicious. I hardly remember, but I remember it was really delicious, and I was really impressed. And I had cow tongue once when I was a little girl, and I liked that too. I've always been really not picky with food. Most of my family's, I don't think anybody in my family is really picky with food, except for my dad's kind of picky with food. You know, I should have done this in my food processor. Well, it's not too late to. Let's try finishing this off in the food processor, because I've watched people make pie crust in the food processor, and it always turns out so good. So we're going to move over to the food processor now. I broke a nail! Fortunately, it didn't go in the food. Just went flying across the kitchen. Okay. We're going to pulse it. Okay. And now we're going to add our water. So we're going to add some ice water. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's not working very well. Why is it not going in very well? Is it open? It just takes a long time to go through. Well, let's try pulsing it now. See what it does. It needs more water. I think I'm gonna have to take it out and like pour in the water itself, because that hole is too small. Okay, so I'm gonna pour in and poured in probably about half a cup of water. Okay, there we go. Easy pie crust. Now I'm going to put that back in the bowl. Whoa. The pie crust went flying. And we're going to put that in the fridge until we're ready to roll out our pie crust. I've never made pie crust in a food processor before. That worked out great. So yeah, just kind of make it into a ball and place it in the fridge so it gets nice and chilled. Okay, so these onions are getting nice and caramelized and golden, so it's time to add our root vegetables. And I think I'm going to add some more butter, about 3 more tablespoons of butter. You know, I just realized I forgot to add salt to that pie crust. So don't forget to add salt to the pie crust. I do that all the time. I always forget to add salt to the pie crust. But you can fix that by just sprinkling salt over top of the pie crust. I'm going to add just, let's see here, probably about a teaspoon of salt there. We don't want to add too much salt because we are going to be adding vegetable bouillon, but at the same time the salt will help the vegetables cook. Okay, I'm going to cover that and let that cook for a little bit. Okay, so they are nice and steamed now. Look at that. Yum. Okay. So now we are going to add our mushrooms and peas. And now we're going to add some corn. I'm not sure how much of this corn I'm going to be able to fit in the pan. So we will see here. Okay. I think I'm going to steam this again with the lid. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the corn. And just let this steam for a couple minutes here. Okay, let's see what this is doing here. It's got nice and steamed. And look at that, that looks like almost real chicken there. Ooh, that looks yummy. Okay, so we're gonna add 2 more tablespoons of butter in there. We're gonna take our vegetable bouillon cubes and break them up and add them to there. And we're going to take about a tablespoon of poultry seasoning. And I'm going to add a lot of pepper because I like a lot of pepper. So I'm probably going to add half a teaspoon. Get that all mixed up in there. Okay, and now we're going to add 1/4 cup of flour. Try and get it like evenly distributed in the pan and mix it up in there. And I think this is probably about 8 ounces, maybe 12 ounces of water. I'm gonna mix that up. Create like a gravy. And let that thicken up. This smells delicious. Just thickening it up nicely. Okay, yeah, I think that's going to be enough for 2 pies, which will be perfect. One for me, one for work. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. Oh, and I need to add the parsley. Add the parsley. And mix it up. Now, if you don't like a lot of spices, you can omit the parsley or omit the poultry seasoning, but I like seasoning, so I added all that stuff. Now it's time to roll out our pie crust. So here's our pie crust, and I'm going to try and get it worked into a ball, and then divide it into 4. And it's going to have some parsley in the pie crust because there's parsley on my hands. So I'm going to flour out my working surface. Take a pie crust ball, and I think what I'm going to do, since I forgot to add salt, is I'm going to just sprinkle some salt over top, and hopefully that will work in some salt. So I'd like to take a little flour, sprinkle it on top, sprinkle some on my rolling pin. Okay, so we have a couple pie pans here. I'm going to start with this one. Well, trying to be a little more delicate with the pie crust. That's okay. Okay, so now we're going to add some of our pot pie filling. Maybe just a little more. Doesn't that look good? A pot pie. Now we gotta make the top crust. So I love a good pie crust. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold all that pie crust over. And then I'm gonna take a fork and press in some pie crust patterns. I'm gonna take some olive oil on a brush and brush that on top of the pie. I'll give it a nice yummy crust. I'm going to set this aside while I make the other pie. Okay, now I'm going to fill the pie with the rest of the pot pie filling. I hope that's enough. It's going to be a smaller pie, but it looks like it's just enough. Okay, the pies are ready to go in the oven now. So I'm going to bake those for 55 minutes. Okay, the pies should be done now. Yum! Let's see, I think I'm gonna eat the big one to myself and I'll take the little one into work because I'm gonna love that pie, I'm sure. So these need to cool just a little bit before I cut into them. Okay, let's cut into this pie here. I have a pie cutter somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So we're gonna just use a knife. Look how flaky that pie crust is. Let's see what it looks like when we get it out of here. Oh, it's just falling apart. It's so flaky. I need a spoon. But look at it on the inside. Isn't that delicious looking? Ooh, it tastes delicious too. I just tasted a little bit on my finger. Now, I'm just going to have one piece for now. I like the seasoning. Now, of course, if you are sensitive to seasonings, then just omit all the seasonings I used. But it tastes good to me. Look at that. Pot pie.